Life is not a battlefield but a great game of mind and spirit, a chessboard upon which the invisible forces of thought, faith, and divine law move us toward our appointed victories. The world would tell you that wealth is earned through strain, struggle, and ceaseless labor. But the divine whispers a different story. Abundance is the natural birthright of the soul attuned to truth. To those who dare to step out of fear and into the light of faith, riches flow not as a trickle, but as a river, unending and overflowing. Money is not wicked, nor is it a false idol when placed in its rightful order. It is simply a symbol, a token of divine supply, drawn into your life according to the pictures you hold in your heart. The universe is an inexhaustible storehouse, and God is the eternal banker who never refuses a worthy request. Yet this storehouse does not open its doors to doubt, complaint, or disbelief. It opens when the soul aligns itself with spiritual law, when it speaks the word of faith with unwavering conviction. The road to millions is not paved with fear, nor is it lined with anxious toil. It is carved by the spoken word, the vision held in unwavering clarity, and the actions that proceed from inner certainty rather than outer desperation. For it is never the outer that shapes the inner, but the inner that shapes the outer. The individual who masters his thought life, who cleanses his tongue of defeat and fills it with declarations of victory, has already written his fortune in the unseen. What is written there must, by divine law, appear in the visible world. There are 5 principles, 5 steps, 5 living truths that, when embraced and practiced, set the stage for the miraculous. They are not tricks, nor are they schemes of man. They are spiritual laws as ancient as the stars, and as present as your next breath. To follow them is to align yourself with the very current of divine prosperity, the unseen river that flows beneath all appearances. When you place yourself in harmony with these laws, the riches of the universe are drawn to you as iron to the magnet, as ships to the lighthouse, as rivers to the sea. Your words are your wand, and with them you write the script of your life. Speak lack and you summon lack. Speak plenty and plenty hastens to meet you. Your thoughts are seeds planted in the soil of the subconscious. They cannot help but sprout in kind. And your actions, when born of faith instead of fear, are the final strokes of the artist's brush that complete the picture of wealth you hold within. Therefore, let us look with new eyes, listen with new ears, and prepare our hearts to receive. For the same power that set the stars in their places waits to set riches in your hands, if only you will dare to follow the 5 things that open the door to divine supply. To speak words of wealth, never of lack, is to recognize the hidden power that rests in every syllable we utter. Words are not empty sounds, they are living forces, creative currents that shape the unseen substance of life. When you say, I can, you open a door. When you say, I cannot, you close it. Every phrase you speak sends forth a vibration that either summons abundance or repels it, and the universe is impartial in its response. It simply reflects back the nature of the command you have given. Just as a seed planted in the soil cannot help but produce after its kind, so the words spoken into the ethers must return to you multiplied, carrying with them the essence of the thought from which they were born. To speak wealth is to plant seeds of wealth. To speak lack is to plant weeds of limitation, and the harvest will always match the seed. When you say, I never have enough, you have unknowingly declared a decree, and life must obey. When you speak, money comes to me easily and freely, you have set in motion the law of supply, and opportunities begin to arrange themselves to prove your words true. This is not imagination, nor is it vain repetition. It is spiritual law. Every word carries a pattern, and the pattern will reproduce itself in your experience. The tongue is like the rudder of a ship, small but mighty, directing the whole course of your journey. If it continually points toward poverty, no amount of effort can shift you into prosperity, for the unseen blueprint has already been drawn by your speech. But if the tongue is trained to speak only of plenty, to declare abundance where none is visible, then the blueprint is altered, and life must rise to meet the new design. The untrained mind falls easily into idle talk. It mutters complaints, repeats the chorus of limitation heard from others, and treats words as if they had no consequence. But once you awaken to the power of speech, you realize that idle talk is no idle matter. Every casual remark is a seed, every careless complaint a decree. To say, "I am broke," even in jest, is to call upon the invisible forces to arrange themselves around your poverty. To laugh and repeat, "Nothing ever works out for me," is to give authority to failure. The wise soul, once aware of this law, begins to guard the lips as carefully as a jeweler guards precious stones. Nothing is allowed to pass them that does not carry the vibration of wealth, joy, and success. It may seem strange at first to speak prosperity in the midst of lack. It may feel unnatural to declare, "I am rich," when your purse is empty. Yet this is precisely the turning point, for you are not describing the visible. You are creating the invisible which will later appear. Faith speaks of things not yet seen as though they were, and the spoken word clothes them with form. The person who waits to see wealth before speaking it has missed the law entirely. You do not wait for the harvest to believe in the seed. You plant, and you speak over that seed as though the harvest were already here. So too with wealth. You speak words of wealth while appearances contradict, and in due time appearances are compelled to align. Consider how often people tie themselves to lack with their own tongues. They say, "It's too expensive," and so it remains forever beyond their reach. They sigh, "I can't afford it," and their very cells memorize the rhythm of deprivation. They tell stories of hardship and repeat them until those stories become chains. Yet all along, another choice was available to reverse the words. To say instead, "Everything I need comes to me in perfect time." To say, "There is always a way, and it reveals itself now." To say, "Money is drawn to me as a magnet draws iron." With such declarations, the atmosphere shifts, for words not only call forth events, they transform the inner vibration of the speaker. The mind believes the tongue, and the body follows suit, aligning actions and perceptions with the words spoken. The practice of speaking wealth is not about shouting affirmations into the air without feeling. It is about speaking with authority, as one who knows the law and expects its fulfillment. A king does not beg his servants, he commands them. A creator does not plead with substance, he shapes it. In the same way, your words must carry the calm assurance of one who knows they are backed by the infinite supply of God. When you say, "I am wealthy," you are not hoping or wishing. You are declaring an eternal truth that already exists in the unseen. With repetition, the subconscious accepts it as fact, and once accepted, it cannot help but arrange circumstances to prove it so. You may notice resistance at first. Old patterns of thought rise up and contradict the new words. The mind whispers, "But the bills are unpaid." Or, "You've never had money before." These are the echoes of the past, not the voice of the law. Pay them no heed. Continue speaking wealth with firmness. Just as a gardener must pull up weeds day after day until the soil is cleared, so must you uproot words of lack whenever they appear. Replace them instantly with words of abundance. Say, "I am always provided for." Say, "My wealth increases daily." Say, "The riches of heaven are mine now." Over time, the soil of the mind becomes rich, fertile, and free of contradiction, and the new harvest cannot be prevented. It is not enough to speak wealth only in moments of meditation. The true mastery is to let every word of daily life be colored with prosperity. When someone asks, "How are you?" let your reply be, "I am blessed beyond measure." When faced with a challenge, say, "This is working out for my highest good." When tempted to complain of expenses, instead declare, "Every dollar I spend returns to me multiplied." By weaving words of wealth into ordinary conversation, you make prosperity the constant atmosphere in which you live. Soon, others will notice and echo your speech, for the vibration is contagious. Your words not only change your life but ripple outward, elevating those around you. Children understand this principle better than most. They speak boldly of what they want, imagining themselves already in possession of it. They say, "I have a castle," and in their minds it is so. They do not weigh probabilities or calculate costs. They live by the law of imagination and word. Adults, dulled by years of doubt, forget this natural power. To return to it is not to be childish, but to reclaim the creative innocence that aligns perfectly with divine law. To say, "I am rich," with childlike faith is to open the gates of heaven. Every fortune begins with a word. The skyscraper begins with a declaration. The business begins with a vision spoken aloud. The inheritance of spiritual riches is unlocked with affirmations of truth. History is filled with those who spoke their wealth long before it appeared, who dared to utter words of greatness when circumstances mocked them. In time, circumstances bowed to their words, as they always must. For the spoken word, charged with faith, is stronger than any visible condition. To hold a clear vision of abundance is to step into the realm of creation itself, for nothing comes into form without first being pictured in the mind. Vision is the mold into which divine substance is poured. The universe does not respond to confusion, to wavering images, or to shifting desires. It responds to the picture that is steady, unwavering, and alive with feeling. The person who drifts from thought to thought, one day imagining wealth, and the next day imagining poverty, scatters their creative power and delays the manifestation of good. But the one who fixes the inner eye upon abundance, who paints it in vivid colors upon the canvas of imagination, begins to draw it into experience with irresistible force. The imagination is not a child's toy, but the workshop of spirit. What you picture with clarity and hold with persistence must take form. For the law of mind is that the image impressed upon the subconscious must reproduce itself in the outer world. You cannot picture lack and receive wealth, any more than you can plant thorns and harvest roses. The subconscious is fertile soil, and it grows whatever seeds are given. If you hold before it the picture of an empty wallet, it will reproduce conditions to match. If you hold before it the picture of riches flowing freely, of doors opening, of opportunities arriving, it will shape circumstances to deliver the harvest. Clarity of vision is the great secret. Many people say they want more money, but they picture debt. They say they desire success, but they picture failure. They long for freedom, but they rehearse images of limitation. The mind cannot serve two masters. It cannot bring forth two contradictory pictures. The stronger vision will prevail. Therefore, it is essential to cleanse the inner screen of every picture of want, replacing them with visions of abundance so radiant, so consistent, that no shadow can remain. When the inner picture is clear, the outer form must appear in like manner. To hold a clear vision is not merely to daydream, but to know with certainty. It is not fantasy but faith. It is not idle wishing but conscious creation. When you close your eyes and see yourself walking in wealth, dwelling in comfort, and living as one who is fully provided for, you are not pretending. You are contacting the eternal realm where these realities already exist, waiting for the doorway of belief to bring them forth. The unseen is more real than the seen, for the seen is but the result of the unseen. To dwell in the unseen with clarity is to prepare the way for the seen to shift accordingly. The mind must be trained in this discipline. Left to itself, it wanders into fear, rehearses worry, paints grim pictures of what may go wrong. Each of these pictures is a misuse of the creative faculty. To hold a clear vision of abundance requires the deliberate act of replacing every fearful image with a radiant one. When the mind shows you bills, replace them with the vision of those bills marked, paid in full. When it shows you lack, replace it with the picture of overflowing supply. When it tempts you to imagine failure, paint instead the vivid scene of triumph. This continual correction strengthens the inner eye, until it learns to hold abundance as naturally as the body holds its breath. The clearer the vision, the faster the manifestation. A vague desire produces vague results, but a sharp image produces sharp outcomes. If you desire wealth, picture the experience in detail. See yourself opening the mailbox and finding checks. See yourself signing contracts that bring increase. See yourself entering a home filled with beauty, walking in peace, moving with freedom. Feel the joy, hear the laughter, sense the security. Make the vision real in every sense, for the subconscious responds most powerfully to pictures charged with emotion. Cold images fade, but images warmed with feeling imprint themselves deeply and call forth their likeness. Doubt blurs the vision, and fear fogs it. One moment of disbelief can cloud the clear image, just as smoke obscures a window. That is why faith must accompany vision. Faith keeps the image steady, bright and alive, even when outer appearances contradict it. You may see lack in the outer, yet hold abundance within. You may face obstacles without, yet keep the vision clear within. In time, the inner vision conquers the outer condition, for the inner is cause and the outer is effect. No effect can resist its cause forever. The great mistake is to let outer appearances dictate the inner picture. This is like allowing the mirror to tell the face what expression to wear. The mirror only reflects, it does not create. In the same way, the outer world only reflects the inner vision. To change the reflection, change the picture within. The wise do not let circumstances sway their vision. They hold to abundance though appearances scream otherwise. They continue to picture wealth even in the presence of lack, knowing that the lack is but a shadow, while the vision is the substance. Clarity requires repetition. A single image held once may not impress the subconscious deeply enough to reproduce. Just as a photograph develops through repeated exposure, so the vision of abundance develops through daily practice. Morning and night, and in every idle moment, call forth the image of wealth. See it, feel it, affirm it, until it becomes more familiar than any picture of lack. Soon it no longer feels like imagination but reality, and when it feels real within, the outer must conform. The act of holding a clear vision is also an act of protection. It shields the mind from the invasion of negative images. When your inner screen is filled with light, darkness cannot enter. When your picture is fixed upon wealth, no suggestion of poverty can lodge there. In this way, the vision not only creates abundance but guards against lack. It becomes a fortress of thought, an anchor of certainty, a beacon that guides the unseen forces of supply to your door. Every great achievement in history began with a vision. The architect first saw the building within before it rose without. The inventor pictured the machine within before it took shape without. The leader saw the victory within before it appeared without. Wealth is no different. The millionaire first sees the riches within before they arrive without. To hold a clear vision of abundance is to follow the same law. To work with the same creative power, to join in the eternal process by which the invisible becomes visible, to walk in faith not in fear, is to choose the higher path, where the invisible becomes more real than the visible, and where divine law is trusted above appearances. Faith is the bridge between the seen and the unseen, the channel through which the infinite flows into the finite. Fear closes that channel, binding the soul in limitation and shadow, while faith opens it wide, inviting miracles to pour through. Each step of life is taken either in faith or in fear, and the results always reveal which companion is guiding the journey. The one who walks in fear finds doors closed, opportunities delayed, and strength diminished. The one who walks in faith sees doors open of their own accord, resources arrive in perfect time, and strength renewed in every trial. Faith is not blind. It is inner sight. It is the recognition that there is a higher order at work, beyond what the senses can register. To walk in faith is to know that supply is already prepared, that solutions are already given, that the way is already made, even if the outer path seems hidden. Fear stares at the obstacle and declares it insurmountable. Faith looks through the obstacle and knows it must dissolve. Fear rehearses the worst outcomes, weaving images of disaster that imprison the mind. Faith rehearses only victory, holding to the image of triumph until it becomes the only possible conclusion. The difference between the two paths is not circumstance but choice. Two people may face the same condition, yet one shrinks in fear while the other rises in faith. The fearful one speaks words of defeat, attracts more defeat, and confirms their own prophecy. The faithful one speaks words of victory, attracts opportunities, and fulfills their decree. The outer condition has no power of its own. It only reflects the inner state. Fear magnifies lack until it appears overwhelming. Faith magnifies abundance until it becomes irresistible. To walk in faith requires discipline, for the mind is easily tempted by fear. Fear often disguises itself as caution, reason, or even wisdom. It whispers, "You must prepare for the worst." And in preparing, one secretly invites the very thing feared. Faith does not prepare for the worst. It prepares for the best. It does not calculate what may go wrong but affirms what must go right. The faithful heart looks upon challenges not as threats but as opportunities for divine power to reveal itself. Where fear contracts and closes, faith expands and opens. Where fear hesitates, faith advances. Where fear clutches tightly, faith releases freely. The body itself responds to the difference. Fear quickens the pulse, tightens the breath, and drains energy. Faith calms the heart, deepens the breath, and renews energy. Fear produces confusion in thought, scattering attention and weakening decision. Faith brings clarity, steadiness, and assurance. Even on the physical plane, the walk of faith creates strength, while the walk of fear creates weakness. What is true for the body is true for the circumstances of life. Fear scatters, faith gathers. Fear divides, faith unites. Fear diminishes, faith increases. To walk in faith is to trust divine order even when appearances are chaotic. The fearful mind demands to know every step before taking the first, but faith takes the step and allows the next to be revealed. Just as a traveler walking by lantern sees only a few feet ahead, yet reaches the destination in time, so the faithful soul does not demand to see the whole journey at once. It is enough to see the next step. For the law of supply reveals the way piece by piece, moment by moment. To refuse to move until the whole path is visible is to remain stuck. To move with faith in the unseen is to progress steadily toward fulfillment. Fear often masquerades as prudence, but prudence without faith is only stagnation. Fear insists on guarantees, contracts, assurances, but life rarely offers such securities. The only true guarantee is divine law itself, the certainty that what is spoken in faith, believed in faith, and acted upon in faith must manifest. To trust this guarantee is to walk with freedom, to release the chains of worry, and to know that every step is supported. Even if the ground seems unstable, faith makes it firm beneath your feet. Even if the way appears blocked, faith causes the obstacle to dissolve. Even if resources seem absent, faith causes them to appear. The imagination plays a central role in this walk. Fear fills the imagination with pictures of loss, debt, and danger. Faith fills the imagination with pictures of wealth, success, and safety. Whichever pictures dominate the inner eye shape the outer world. Therefore, the one who walks in faith keeps the imagination sanctified, refusing to let fear draw its dark sketches. Instead, the canvas of thought is filled daily with radiant visions of abundance, health, and joy. These visions, held with unwavering faith, become the pattern for life to follow. To walk in faith is not to ignore outer conditions, but to interpret them rightly. Where fear sees lack, faith sees temporary shadow awaiting light. Where fear sees endings, faith sees new beginnings. Where fear sees danger, faith sees protection. Outer conditions are but symbols, and the faithful soul reads them with the language of spirit, not the language of fear. Just as a skilled reader interprets words on a page with understanding, so the faithful interpret circumstances as passing signs, never ultimate realities. Fear enslaves by focusing on the self. What will happen to me? What if I lose? What if I fail? Faith liberates by focusing on the infinite. What God has prepared, what good must unfold, what law cannot fail. The self is small and fragile, but the infinite is vast and unshakable. To shift from fear to faith is to move from dependence on limited self to dependence on unlimited supply. It is to stop asking, "How can I?" and start affirming, "It is already done." This shift transforms every situation. For the source of supply is no longer measured by personal resources, but by divine abundance. The practice of walking in faith is strengthened by word and action. Words of fear must be replaced by words of faith until the tongue becomes an instrument of power. Instead of saying, "I don't know how this will work," say, "The way is made clear before me." Instead of saying, I cannot afford this, say, all that I need is provided. Each word of faith is a step along the path, each affirmation a paving stone laid beneath your feet. Action 2 must follow faith. To believe without acting is to halt the process halfway. To act in faith, even in small ways, is to demonstrate trust in divine order, and the universe responds to such demonstrations with multiplied supply. Every moment presents the choice between fear and faith. Each thought, each word, each action tips the scale. To walk in faith is not a single act, but a continual decision, a steady practice of aligning with truth over illusion, with love over fear, with abundance over lack. It is the conscious choice to keep eyes fixed on the unseen supply rather than the seen deficiency, to keep the heart anchored in assurance rather than tossed by doubt. The more this choice is made, the more natural it becomes, until faith is not an effort but a habit, not a struggle but a way of life. To give freely and receive freely is to understand the rhythm of life, for all of creation moves in cycles of outflow and inflow. The tides of the sea, the breath of the lungs, the seasons of the earth, all testify to the law of circulation. To hold back in fear, to clutch what you have with tight hands, interrupts this divine rhythm and produces stagnation. But to give with faith, to release with joy, to let substance flow outward without resistance, is to keep yourself in harmony with the infinite source that never runs dry. What flows out must return multiplied, for the universe abhors a vacuum, and every space you create through giving must be filled again with greater supply. The fearful soul says, I cannot give, for I may not have enough left. The faithful soul says, I give, for I know there is always more to come. One lives in the shadow of lack, the other in the sunlight of abundance. The difference is not in their circumstances, but in their consciousness. The one who fears to give binds themselves to the very lack they dread, for their withholding shuts the door to inflow. The one who gives freely unlocks the treasure house of heaven, and resources hasten to fill their open hands. To give freely is not only about money, though money is often the symbol through which this law is most clearly seen. It includes time, kindness, encouragement, and service. Every act of giving sends forth energy, and energy cannot be lost. It must return in kind, often in unexpected ways, often from sources the giver could never have predicted. A word of encouragement spoken in faith may return years later as a door of opportunity. A gift of money given in love may return many times greater as financial increase. The act of release itself is the signal to the universe that you trust divine supply, and trust is always rewarded. The manner of giving is as important as the act. To give grudgingly, with complaint or fear, is to sow seeds in poor soil. The harvest is meager because the heart was closed. To give freely joyfully, with the inner declaration, I release this to multiply and return, is to sow in fertile ground. The harvest must be abundant because the act was aligned with divine law. It is not the size of the gift, but the spirit of the giver that determines the increase. A small gift, given with joy and faith, carries more power than a large one given with doubt. Receiving freely is the other half of the law, and many fail here. They may give, but when abundance returns they resist it with guilt, unworthiness, or disbelief. They say, I cannot accept this, or I do not deserve so much. In doing so, they block the very blessing they have summoned. Just as one must open the hand to release, so must one open the hand to receive. To give without receiving is to break the circle, and to receive without giving is the same. Harmony requires both. There are those who pride themselves on always being the giver, never the receiver. They think it noble to refuse gifts, to decline help, to bear the burden alone. Yet this is only pride disguised as humility. For it denies others the joy of giving, and it interrupts the rhythm of circulation. To receive freely is to honor the giver, to complete the cycle, to allow the universe to work through others on your behalf. To refuse is to close a door that God has opened. To accept with gratitude is to keep the channel clear for more to flow. The law of giving and receiving is not barter, not a trade made with expectation of exact return. It is a spiritual principle, operating beyond calculation. You may give in one direction and receive from another. You may sow seeds of kindness into one life and reap abundance from a completely different source. The channels may change, but the law is unfailing: what you release returns. To give and receive freely is to stop concerning yourself with how the return will come, and to rest in certainty that it must come. Fear of loss is the greatest hindrance to giving. People say, "If I give, I will have less." Yet the truth is the opposite. If you give, you create space for more. If you withhold, you bind yourself to less. The hand that clutches tightly cannot receive. The hand that opens freely is ready to be filled. This is not theory but law, demonstrated again and again by those who dare to test it. Countless lives testify that when they released in faith, resources multiplied, opportunities appeared, doors opened. The moment of release is the moment of expansion. Generosity must be guided by wisdom. To give freely does not mean to give recklessly or to feed what is destructive. True giving aligns with divine order. It uplifts, it blesses. It multiplies good. To pour out without discernment, to support what diminishes or enslaves, is not giving but scattering. The soul attuned to spirit knows where to release and where to refrain. Divine guidance directs the hand, ensuring that every gift sown is planted in soil that will yield a harvest of blessing. Receiving also requires faith. Often the blessing comes in ways that seem small or ordinary, and the ungrateful soul overlooks it, waiting for something grand. But the one who receives freely gives thanks for every token, knowing that each is a sign of greater supply on the way. Gratitude is the magnet that draws increase. To say, "Thank you," with sincerity is to multiply the inflow, for gratitude signals readiness for more. The ungrateful block the current, but the grateful accelerate it. The cycle of giving and receiving is endless. The more you give, the more you receive. The more you receive, the more you can give. Each turn of the cycle enlarges the capacity, expanding the flow until it becomes a river of abundance. To live within this rhythm is to live without fear, for you know that supply is never ending. Just as the ocean does not diminish when a wave crashes upon the shore, so the infinite storehouse of God is not reduced when you give. The wave returns, and so does your substance, greater than before. This law also operates in thought and word. To give freely of affirmations of wealth, to speak words of encouragement and prosperity, is to plant seeds that return as experiences of wealth. To withhold words of blessing, to stay silent when affirmation could have been spoken, is to miss opportunities for increase. Every thought released is a gift to the unseen, and every thought returns in kind. To give thoughts of abundance is to receive experiences of abundance. To give thoughts of fear is to receive experiences of fear. Thus, the law of giving and receiving governs not only the material, but the mental and spiritual as well. To align with divine order in every step is to move in harmony with the unseen intelligence that governs all things, the wisdom that arranges the stars in their courses and directs the seasons in perfect rhythm. Divine order is the invisible blueprint of life, the pattern of perfection already established in the mind of God. When you align yourself with it, every path is made straight, every obstacle dissolves. Every need is met in time and in full. When you resist it, when you try to force your will against the higher law, you create friction, delay, and confusion. To live in alignment is to walk with ease, for you are no longer struggling against the current, but flowing with it, carried by a force greater than yourself. The evidence of divine order is all around. Night follows day, spring follows winter, the tides rise and fall. The planets circle in their orbits without missing a beat. The same law that governs these great movements governs your life as well. The difference is that nature obeys without resistance, while human beings often interfere with doubt, fear, and stubborn will. Yet the law is constant. And the moment you yield to it, the moment you say, "I trust the perfect order of my life," the current begins to carry you where you are meant to go. The resistance falls away, and what once seemed difficult begins to unfold with effortless precision. Alignment with divine order is not passivity, nor is it idleness. It is the conscious act of attunement, of listening inwardly and moving according to guidance rather than impulse. The fearful soul rushes forward in haste, pushing doors open before they are ready. The faithful soul waits for the right time, knowing that divine order is never late and never early. Each step is taken at the perfect moment, and because it is the right step at the right time, it produces results that hasty effort could never accomplish. What seems delayed is only preparation. What seems denied is only redirection. Divine order knows what the mind does not, and those who trust it find themselves led into abundance beyond what they could have planned. Every difficulty carries within it the seed of order, though fear sees only disorder. A closed door is not chaos but protection, keeping you from paths that would harm. A delay is not confusion but alignment, preparing you for the right circumstances. Even apparent loss is not disorder but pruning, removing what no longer serves so that increase can come in its place. To align with divine order is to interpret life with this higher vision, to see beneath appearances to the truth that all things are working together for good. Fear cries, "This is disaster." Faith whispers, "This too is divine order." In time the whisper proves true, for what first seemed misfortune reveals itself as blessing in disguise. Alignment is a matter of thought, word, and deed. In thought it means keeping the mind fixed on harmony, refusing to indulge confusion or disorder. When the mind is filled with worry, it is like a compass that spins wildly, unable to point true north. But when the mind rests in assurance, the inner compass aligns and the path becomes clear. In word, it means speaking only that which agrees with order. To say, "Everything is falling apart," is to affirm disorder. To say, "Everything is falling into place," is to affirm order. The universe listens to your declarations and shapes itself accordingly. Indeed, it means acting in ways that harmonize with truth, keeping your affairs in order, fulfilling obligations, maintaining integrity, and moving with patience rather than panic. Each of these actions aligns you with the higher law, and the higher law rewards with increase. Disorder arises from resistance, from the attempt to control outcomes that belong to God. The ego insists, it must happen this way, at this time, in this manner. But divine order may have a better way, a faster route, a richer outcome. To cling to your own plan is to block the greater plan. Alignment requires surrender, not resignation, but joyful trust. It is the surrender of a child who lets the parent guide, knowing that love and wisdom see farther. When you release the rigid grip of your own timetable, you make space for divine timing to operate, and divine timing never fails. Alignment also requires discernment. Many voices clamor for attention, fear, desire, habit, memory. But the voice of divine order is calm, steady, and sure. It does not shout, it whispers. To hear it, you must quiet the noise within. Set aside the constant chatter of doubt, and listen with the ear of the heart. Often it speaks as intuition, a sudden knowing, a gentle nudge, an inner peace about one path and unrest about another. To ignore these signals is to walk against order. To follow them is to walk within it. Those who cultivate sensitivity to this guidance find that they are led step by step, never forsaken, never lost, always brought to the right place at the right time. Prosperity depends upon this alignment. Money flows most easily where there is order, not chaos. Opportunities come most readily where life is in harmony, not confusion. To align with divine order is to keep your affairs prepared for increase. Just as a farmer prepares the fields before the rain, so must you prepare your life for the blessings you seek. Order in the mind, order in the words, order in the environment. All these create a channel through which wealth can flow. Disorder clogs the channel, but alignment clears it. Many have found that when they put their house in order, when they clear away clutter, when they organize their finances, opportunities for abundance appear almost immediately, for they have symbolically aligned the outer with the inner. The habit of alignment transforms even small decisions. Each day presents countless choices, and each choice is an opportunity to walk in harmony with the higher law. To pause and ask, is this in divine order? Before acting is to invite guidance. Often the answer comes as peace or unrest, clarity or confusion. Peace indicates alignment, unrest signals misstep. Over time, this practice becomes natural, and the soul moves in rhythm with the law without strain, just as the body walks without conscious effort once it has learned. When you are aligned, synchronicities multiply. People appear at the right moment. Ideas come at the right time, resources arrive just as needed. What others call coincidence is recognized by the aligned soul as evidence of divine order. Life becomes a flow rather than a struggle, a series of open doors rather than walls. This is not because challenges vanish, but because every challenge is met at the appointed time with the appointed strength, and each turns into an opportunity for greater increase. To align with divine order in every step is to live as though supported by unseen hands, guided by unseen wisdom, supplied by unseen riches. It is to walk in harmony with the law that governs all creation, confident that each movement forward is part of a larger design. It is to rest in assurance that nothing is random, nothing is wasted, nothing is outside the reach of divine arrangement.